Hello everybody, it's Hannah with Hannah Banana Creations, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to take this thrift store crusty little jewelry box that has definitely seen better days and transform it into a beautiful piece of art using Redesign with Prima products. Whenever you're painting a DIY project, it is very important to do the proper prep work first. That way your paint and any product you use on your project will adhere correctly. So with a little bit of vacuuming and a good scrub down with a degreasing cleaner, I was then ready to start my painting. I did decide to go ahead and prime this piece because it was pretty shiny, and this will help my paint adhere and just avoid problems later on in the process. After my primer was completely dry, it was time to add my color, and I am using this navy color from All Chalk Paint. It's called Nautilus, and it's just a very beautiful deep navy color. I did 2 coats of this all over the piece for full coverage, and I took each drawer out to make it easier to paint to get into all the little nooks and crannies. One of my favorite products to use on jewelry boxes are the Middy transfers. This is Blush Reverie. It's a newer transfer from Redesign with Prima, and you get 3 sheets of all these beautiful floral designs, which are perfect for adding to smaller projects and making jewelry boxes look really elegant and beautiful. I start off by laying out my design so I can kind of get an idea of which parts of the transfer I want to use. These 2 floral images were similar, but they mirrored each other, so they were perfect to fit into this door space here. And I'm going to be combining this transfer with another transfer. This is an H2O transfer. The application process is different than a regular transfer. You actually need water to get it to adhere to your project, but look at the vibrant gold, beautiful labels that are a part of this H2O transfer. This one is called Chant Du Matin, and I'm just going to be using a few elements from this transfer, including this French-inspired label here and some of the birds to add as little accents throughout my piece. After I had my pieces of my H2O transfer all cut out, I continued to lay that in with the Middy transfer I had already had on my piece, and then I applied that to the areas on the front of the door. All of the regular transfers do come with an application tool, which is this wooden stick here. You just use it to press down the image, and then once everything is pressed down, you just remove the plastic backing and then burnish with your fingers to make sure all the edges are also stuck down. Next up, it's time to apply the H2O transfers. This little spray bottle and this scraper tool are perfect accessories to use to apply your H2O transfers. This little spray bottle is smaller than most, so it makes it a lot easier to apply the H2O transfer to a smaller area because it keeps the water more concentrated to a smaller area of your project. When applying an H2O transfer, you first want to start with a mist of water on your project. You don't need too much, that's why I blot some of it off with my paper towel. And then you peel off the plastic backing on the H2O transfer and apply the transfer face down onto your project. Then I give it another spritz or 2 of water to help it adhere to my project. And then I take a damp paper towel and lay that over the transfer as well. These are a lot like the temporary tattoos you would use as a kid, so kind of think of them that way. You have to make sure your entire transfer is wet with water. And then I just kind of alternate between my mister bottle and my scraper tool, which this scraper tool is a rubber tool, so it won't damage your project in any way, and it's bendy, so it's easy to use. And then I use my X-Acto knife to help me lift up the paper because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. You can always use your scraper tool to re-adhere anything that isn't fully stuck to your project quite yet. These transfers also have the design on the back paper so you can see where your boundaries are, so that's also super helpful. And then once everything is adhered, you just remove the backing. And I use my paper towel to kind of blot up any excess water and dry it off a little bit. And as you can see, the gold stays really vibrant, a lot like gold leaf, and there's no halo around the design. So these H2O transfers are a really great tool to use. The Middy transfer also had lots of great little tiny floral elements, so I thought that would be cute to mix in with the birds from the H2O transfer and apply those on the drawer to add a little bit more interest to the front of this jewelry box. Smaller pieces of a transfer can be a little bit tricky to apply, but using your tools, including your wooden transfer tool that comes with your transfer, plus an X-Acto knife to help you lift off the plastic backing, and also just using your finger on the trickier areas will really help you apply these smaller transfer pieces. To apply the smaller H2O pieces, I start by peeling off the backing and then spraying just a little corner of the drawer. And then for smaller pieces like this, I spray the back of the H2O transfer before I press it down. This will help the transfer adhere better. And then again, I alternate between using my damp paper towel and my scraper tool to help the transfer adhere to my project. And since these little pieces are really hard to work with, having an X-Acto knife to lift up the paper backing is very, very useful. A lot of the transfers include elements that are mirroring each other, and that was the case with this H2O transfer. There were lots of little birds that were facing in both directions, so I thought it'd be really cute to frame the door with them as well as putting them on the corners of the drawers. It just helps carry that gold bird element throughout the entire piece. I wanted to add a really fun and bold gold leaf design to the side of this jewelry box. So I started off with this Stick and Style stencil. The stencil is really easy to use because it has some adhesive on the back, so it sticks to your project. Not too much that it'll pull up the paint, but just enough to help your stencil look nice and crisp. Whenever you're applying gold leaf, you always start with your adhesive. You want to use a specific gilding glue, not any kind of Mod Podge or whatever will work. You have to use specific gilding glue, and then I just dabble that on my stencil like I would a paint, and then you have to wait for that to dry to a tacky finish. Don't let it completely dry. You want it to be a little bit sticky. Once it has dried to that tacky feeling, you can apply your gold leaf. This is the Kacha gold leaf, which is also from Redesign with Prima, and I just apply it one sheet at a time over the adhesive I had already stenciled, and then I just pat it down with my fingers, or you can also use a light brush to tap down the rest of your gold leaf. After I have all my gold leaf applied, I take a soft brush and just lightly brush away all the excess, and then that stencil design starts to reveal itself. This bright gold leaf design looks so, so beautiful against that navy blue background, and it'll tie in really well with the gold color of the H2O transfers. You can use the gold leaf for some really beautiful fine details as well. To give the drawer hardware a little bit more of a metallic shine, I added some gold leaf to each of the knobs on all of the drawers and also added it as an accent on the edges of all of the drawers as well. This part definitely required a little bit more patience as well as a much smaller brush, but the end result turned out so gorgeous. I also found it easier to cut my gold leaf up into strips for this part, and then I also used my soft bristle brush to help push the gold leaf into the harder to reach areas such as the cracks and crevices. I wanted to add a fun little surprise on the inside once you open the door. So I made this design on the inside with both of the Middy transfer and the H2O transfer. So I hope this shows you that you can mix the transfers and create your own design. I love how pink and navy look together, and then accented with the gold, it just really ties everything together into one cohesive design. This part of the jewelry box looked like it was glass, but it was actually plastic. So that is why I decided to paint over it and add this beautiful design instead. To seal everything up, I'm just using a clear wax. You do have to be careful with what kind of sealer you use with gold leaf. Some of it can turn the gold leaf different colors, so clear wax is the best bet on a piece like this. I also use the clear wax to seal right over the H2O transfer. And as you can see, there is no halo left behind. That can happen with transfers sometimes, especially on a darker color. But as you can see here, this one looks absolutely flawless. And here's the final result of this gorgeous transformation. I can't believe this jewelry box was found at the thrift store, dirty and forgotten, but I hope this shows you how using some good paint and some amazing DIY products can transform any kind of ordinary thrift find or object around your house into something bold and beautiful just like this. If you want a full list of the products I used for this transformation, be sure to check out the description below. And if you want to try these products for yourself to transform your own thrift flips, you can check out the Redesign with Prima website, or you can check your own local retailer. Again, I am Hannah from Hanna Banana Creations, and I thank you so much for watching and coming along on this creative journey with me today.